Uh, I would say good morning, but I'm not sure in which country you're in. So, hi everyone. It's morning here. It's just gone 11 o'clock. It's a sort of slightly cold and overcast day in Glasgow. Um, okay, so my name is, as it says on the screen, it's Stefan Vidler. I work at GCU and I'm part of the Department of Fashion, Marketing, Tourism and Events. I hold the role of international lead, and basically, part of that is to sort of welcome new international students to our department and support them throughout their studies, making sure everything's going well, and equally sort of to try and raise international agendas within the curriculum. So it's a brief touch of who I am. I do teach on both undergraduate and postgraduate program, majority of the time within the sort of fashion sector. So today I'm really wanting to talk a bit about studying, what it's like to study in Glasgow, but also about the courses as well. So bear with me. Okay, so living and studying in Glasgow, what's it like? You'll notice by my accent, it doesn't sound Glaswegian at all, and that's because it's not. I grew up in Australia and moved to the UK a long, long time ago, so I have a really kind of bizarre accent somewhere between London and Australia. I moved to Glasgow about 5 years ago. It's a really, really welcoming city. It's quite a vibrant city. It's Scotland's largest city. It has this really amazing sort of historical sort of element, but also a very contemporary element. The city is steeped in culture. So as you walk around the city, it's one of those cities that sort of managed to maintain its cultural heritage. And again, when we look back and we see the current influences of the sort of culture in Glasgow, we see a real sort of strong sort of presence in terms of music and culture within the music. So there's a thing called Celtic Connection, which I'll talk about in a second. But it's sort of a celebration of sort of Celtic culture, which is strongly embedded in the city. And then we step through all the periods of history. So we've got some lovely iconic buildings scattered throughout the city that have been preserved. And we see this real mix of culture. It's a mix between a sort of European influence. It has a stronger sort of, dare I say, Scandinavian influence than the rest of the UK. But at the same time, it's only a sort of 4.5 hour train ride away from London. So you can experience the whole of the UK literally on your doorstep. So it's quite uniquely placed. And then literally you can get in a car and drive for 40 minutes and you're in the sort of Scottish Highlands and sort of get to experience all the sort of outdoor activities that Scotland's famous for as well. So as a place to study, I thoroughly recommend it. It's regarded as one of the friendliest cities in the world. But it's a very real city. When you walk around, you're not seeing people who are sort of, I don't know, in a sense, sort of manufactured and they're very mixed. They sort of represent the lifestyle they live. So it's very diverse and it's sort of where it's coming from in terms of its people. The slide on here kind of captures Glasgow, or how I feel about Glasgow, is this sort of mix between our culture, our historical elements. So there's an old historical ship there, and then this real modern element and this creative element. So the building on the right is actually a museum down on the Clyde, and it's actually designed by Zaha Hadid. So we have this real sort of, as I said, juxtaposition as we walk around Glasgow. You see it all the time. This sort of parts of it are very working class. It was very famous for shipbuilding in the past, and then right the way through to very modern and contemporary sort of building and structures. Okay, why would you study at GCU? Number of reasons. One is obviously because of where it's situated. So if you are studying in Glasgow, everything's really, really accessible. So we are literally just across the road from Buchanan bus station. So you can go and get a bus to anywhere in Glasgow, or equally to anywhere sort of in the rest of the UK from the bus station. We're probably another few minutes away from Queen Street station. So for terms of transport, perfectly located. We're 5 minutes away from the central shopping district and central CBD area. So again, from a research base, you can go out and you can see all those things. GCU, in terms of an institution, prides itself on being a very career-focused program. So again, within most of my own teaching, and all the programs within our department, what we're trying to do is really think about the possible career options that may become available to you upon graduation, and prepare you in terms of the skill set and experience that you need to enter into those. Careers are constantly changing with sort of new technological innovation, with sustainable agendas and things like that. We see continuous new career paths. So lecturers will maintain currency and sort of understand what's happening in those career areas to try and impart those skills and support you as best they can in the knowledge base that you'll need and the experience you'll need to enter into that workforce. Innovative teaching, it follows on again. A lot of it is career focused. So we do a lot of live projects. We're really trying to get students to experience what it would be like both in academia, but also in a sort of in a work-based scenario. So we set you briefs that are actually real, that are actually happening in the real world, and try and get you to sort of it's like simulated learning, try to get you to learn through those experiences. It's quite a large campus, has a sort of quite a wide range of different disciplines on campus. And we're investing heavily at the moment in our buildings and in the technology that's been put in. So this big building here is called the Andy Lennox building, and that's undergoing major refurbishment at the moment. So it's been kitted out with all the latest sort of technology and stuff, which again enhances our ability to teach and your ability to learn. We have an award-winning study support program, which is made up of various different components. One of those components is what we refer to as the LDC team, and they're allocated to each individual department. And it's a team of specialists who have both sort of advanced sort of tech skills, so they can help you with using technology, but they also have sort of a very good understanding of academic skills and how to sort of break those down to help support students who are having any kind of problems. So anyone who studies with us, we strongly recommend you get in touch with the LDC team to help you. They do all sorts of things from proofreading, they do study skills. It's just really trying to help people settle and get the most out of their academic experience. In addition to that, we have our disability teams. But in addition to that, there's also lots of pastoral support. So again, as my role as the international lead, I have a degree of sort of pastoral support through that for all the international students. We have year tutor structures. So at any point, there's a whole range of different staff who are willing to sort of help you. So there shouldn't be a point where you get to that thing where you're thinking, oh, I'm stuck and I don't know where to turn. It's quite heavily signposted where you can go, who you can get help from. And we do put a lot of effort into that. I think in terms of most of our students, it's one of the sort of things they come out and say that GCU is very good for. We have very good recognised research. In this department, the tourism and events site, tourism and events program is one of our sort of strongest area for recognition in research. And then also we have quite a few academics looking at sustainability, both of their marketing within fashion. So those are our two sort of central core areas of research. Across the campus, we have award-winning research in both medical disciplines and engineering disciplines. So it is a sort of a university that's growing, it's expanding its reputation, has very, very strong ambitions, which I'll touch on in a minute. So there's lots and lots of positive things that are happening on the campus. Design for today's students, again, as I said before, it's got those career-focused elements in. The campus is quite modern. We're packing it full of technology. It's a very friendly environment. There's plenty of eating facilities. There's plenty of space where people can sit around and socialize. So it's quite a welcoming campus. It's not one of those campuses that you kind of feel alien to. It's what we call an open campus. So people can just literally walk onto campus. You don't have to pass through heavy security to get onto campus. So it really is designed for what we would say is today's students. All of our programs have virtual learning environments, again, just enhancing what today's students actually use. I said before about location. It is a massively conveniently located campus. It's probably the best of the campuses in Glasgow in terms of its convenience, and everything is really like on your doorstep in a sense. Everything's really, really convenient in terms of there's close by student accommodation, transport, plenty of food outlets, just off of campus, central shopping district, all of those things which make your life much easier. And then last one, not so much relevant to MA, but increasingly we are looking at short-term mobility. So we do have an exchange and placement opportunities for students. And again, we work with students individually to sort of highlight what those are and how they relate to their course. Okay, so that's it's a summary. It's just running through those points. But as I said, it is a really welcoming campus. You know, when you walk onto campus, it's busy. There's lots of students everywhere. Most of them seem to be smiling, apart from when it's cold and snowy. But it's one of those places you come in and you think, well, actually, I feel like I belong here. It's a very international campus as well, which again enhances that sense of belonging. I mentioned before innovative teaching approaches. I'll just run through these really quickly. There's that simulations aspect. And again, it's sort of a lot of it is very much around live projects. It's trying to look at what's happening in the industry and think, how do we bring that into our class? So we do consult with industry experts. We have them support us in developing our programs and our curriculums and our projects, and then coming in at the end and offering feedback. So it's making it as real as we possibly can. We try and highlight competitions in different pathways, and get students involved in competitions. We regularly have field trips to surrounding industry partners and guest speakers coming onto campus or doing virtual presentations. At the bottom there, that emphasis on social and cultural theory. So GCU again has this sort of, one of our core values is this notion of it's the university of the common for the common good. And so that's really built into our philosophy in terms of the way we operate. And we really try and consider the social and cultural implications of the subjects we're in. How do we make things sustainable? How do we benefit people? It's not just about making profits, it's about bettering society. So you see that really embedded in a lot of what we do. And again, that comes through both in that cultural element, trying to get people to share cultures, both Scottish culture, Celtic culture, European culture, and then broader international cultures. But equally, this recognition of the social. And in a sense, that's where we kind of draw closer connections with our Scandinavian partners. People in Scotland do have a slightly stronger social conscience than some of the rest of the UK. You know, they actually look out for each other and start to wonder about how something will impact on not just them, but their broader community. So again, that's something we try and highlight in our program. It's not just about the individual, it's about groups of people in society. And then as it says there, industry site visits. There's a lot of different industry in Glasgow, particularly around tourism and events. It's a real hub for international tourism and events. So again, we have a lot of sort of trips out to see what's happening, as well as getting people to come in. We have internships and we have the professional practice module. So again, if that's something you're interested in, you can spend a year working in one of those industries, but still remain linked to the university. I mentioned this before, this notion of the common good, or the common weal. It's incorporated in our coat of arms. It's really central. It's our mission, and it really is central. It's embedded in our sort of approach. A lot of staff, and particularly newer staff that have joined GCU, you'll hear them in their interviews saying, actually, that's something that really attracted me to the university. You'll also hear students that are joining us because they think, in actual fact, they want to be part of a richer society as opposed to focus on the individual. So it's there. It's ever present. It's got their 2030. Our vision for 2030 is to be recognised as a world-leading university for social innovation. So you see all of this coming through in all sorts of curriculum. When we look at marketing, again, we look at sustainable marketing as well as your current marketing. So there's always this sort of duplicity in terms of what we're doing. When we're looking at fashion designing, we're looking at how to make things sustainable, but as well as fashionable. Tourism events, hosting really amazing dynamic events, but equally, how do they support their local community? How do they feed back into their community? So it's a sort of really considered delivery in terms of what we're trying to do. It's not just narrow in terms of how do we just equip you with the skills, but it's about equipping you with the thoughts of how to make the most of yourself and the people around you. Okay, moving on. I'm just going to run through some of the programs very quickly. So this is really focused very much on our postgraduate program. We have 3 programs in the department. The MSc in International Fashion Marketing, which I actually teach on, the MSc in International Tourism and Events, and the MSc in Marketing. The Masters in International Fashion Marketing, again, very much as it says, it focuses on fashion marketing, but it's also trying to pick up on this international focus. Not just international students, but international in terms of the subject matter. Fashion, as we've seen probably across the last 15 years, 20 years, has become a really global industry. So again, when we look at advertising, we look at marketing campaigns, a lot of those campaigns run globally now. They get tweaked slightly for local sort of distribution, but it's to consider how something that is developed in, say, the UK may affect somewhere in China, and then events in China may affect somewhere in Australia, and so forth. It's a very interesting enough, these areas, although we span the globe, seem very small. So you end up with this network of people from across the globe and discussing with people across the globe how these things work. And our international community of students enhances that because they bring in their own experience. So you could be talking to someone in a class who's come from India, who has specialist knowledge around particular crafts like beading and stuff, which is very much part of their fashion industry, combined from someone with Scandinavia, who's much more design focused in sort of their upbringing. And it's like how we look at this cultural diversity and how we develop marketing campaigns to work with that. I teach a module on this program, which is omni-channel fashion marketing. And for the last 2 years, we've partnered up with Nike and we've looked at campaigns working with Nike. And it's a really dynamic program in that we're actually looking at current sort of data and news coming out of Nike in terms of Nike hasn't had the best time in the last 2 years in terms of its market price. It's had a change of direction in terms of its corporate management. And how does that filter through to marketing? So we're not just randomly going, oh, let's come up with a marketing campaign. We're actually really trying to think about how does everything that's going on in the world affect what's happening in marketing and fashion marketing? And how does Nike start to relate to its sort of customer base? Its customer base is changing. Demographics are changing, people's expectations are changing, political environments are changing. So all of that becomes very relevant to what we're doing. And then we're looking at that, and then we're looking at the use of technology, combining all these things to devise a sort of a creative campaign for, as I said, for Nike. Other modules look at sustainability. So as I come through, that module I've just talked about is the second one from the top. All of our modules within the department look at consumer behavior and sustainability within the context of their own, within their own area. So it's very much understanding how a contemporary consumer operates. And again, looking at that sort of global, international, as well as local consumer, how their sort of views and things vary so that you're not offending people when you're producing material and so forth. Sustainability in all areas is crucial. We constantly are seeing, news all the time about our need to really consider increased sustainability in everything that we're doing to be less harmful in terms of engagement with our planet, but also our people. How do we make things that have longevity? How do we run companies that run for years and years and years? How do we produce campaigns that run over periods of years instead of something that literally is used and gone tomorrow? Applied digital skills is looking at using technology on a business-related sort of Sims project. We've got that one at the end, ethics, which picks up on that common good thing, trying to really sort of make you think about the ethical considerations of what you're doing. We're trying to really make the leaders of tomorrow, in a sense, and what we're trying to do is make you think about the world that you fit in, and it's not short term. Most of you are very young, sort of just entering into your 20s. So you're going to be around on the planet for a long time. And it's to try and enhance, the planet and the people of the planet that sort of add to a nicer living environment. So it's really something it's quite passionately held by staff, this notion around how do we make things better for our society as opposed to, corporate greed and quickly just taking and taking and taking. In the fashion marketing program, there's a global fashion system. So again, looking in depth at what's happening in terms of fashion in a global capacity. That will also touch on local elements and how those local elements feed into the global. But even though the world is shifting towards a more isolated position, there is still very much a very global entity towards all of these industries. So we need to really think about how we operate across those. Strategic fashion brand management is very much this notion of there's been a culture shift within fashion away from sort of, dare I say, just advertising-led marketing to this sort of brand management. And brand management isn't just about managing logos and that sort of what we see as corporate branding. It's the whole brand. It's the brand reputation. It's the value of that brand. It's the ethos of that brand. Authenticity comes into it. It's looking at it from a strategic level, how to make people attach with brands. Younger generations, Gen Z, have disassociated from brands. They don't believe brand stories anymore. So how do we work with brands to sort of make them more believable? The next generation is literally 2 to 3 years away from being very much on our radar. And our student base will start to change again within that. So Generation Alpha, we're starting to consider in the classroom. I had a conversation yesterday with a couple of students around, what will Generation Alpha expect from us in terms of brands. So we see all of this being packed into our curriculum. And then international fashion marketing, planning and strategy. Again, practical module looking at how you deliver something, how you plan and strategize. So a bit more behind the scenes than the creative module, which is the omnichannel one. But again, very much around sort of thinking and sort of unpicking all the things that go into marketing campaigns. How do we deliver fashion product? Fashion product is changing and constantly changing. We see different realities coming into play. We see virtual realities coming into play, augmented reality, as well as the real world. And all of that needs to be considered in this. Then we have a postgraduate research methods module. This is where all students will pick their own area of specialism and write up a research proposal. And then that's followed in the summer normally by students completing their master's research project, which is them actually carrying out their research based on their chosen topic. There's another common module there, developing leadership for the common good. Again, just re-enhancing that sort of leadership of tomorrow, that need for sort of care for your community, understanding your community, but also how to become a good global citizen. It sounds a bit preachery, but it is actually, it's something that to be part of is actually a positive experience, as opposed to thinking, well, actually, I've made a lot of money, but then everyone around me is struggling. It's nicer to be in a more balanced society, a society that cares about the sort of people and the life that we all live. An extension of that for students that opt for it is the professional practice module. So you can do 1 year study with us, which is all those taught modules, but you can also sign up for 2 years and do professional practice. So in conjunction with the university, we negotiate a placement with you, a placement for you. Again, you're part of that process and a big part of that process in terms of liaising with the company where you may want to go and work. And so what it is you're actually then going out and working for a company for that next year. But the work is not independent. It's overseen by the university. You're in contact with a lecturer who's giving you advice. There's reflective practice going on. So you're looking at what you're learning, how to improve that practice. So it's a part it's like a supervised work placement in a sense. And all the time, the academic is feeding into you and challenging you about how you develop yourself to advance yourself within that working environment. So it's this sort of supportive environment that helps you expand your knowledge, but also expand your thinking. It's very easy to get in a workplace and just do what you're told and switch off, if that makes sense, in terms of your own professional development or how you feed into this company. So this sort of person behind you, this academic who's helping you really extend and think about what you're doing and get the most out of that experience. These are a couple of examples of some student work coming out of a live project. So again, in the past, we've worked with Topshop. Obviously, it's just visual. Students are encouraged to produce in the Omnichannel project a sort of magazine and comms pack. So these are just a couple of images from comms pack. The middle picture there, you can see Fortnite's mentioned. So again, looking at how we incorporate digital technology in current marketing campaigns. First image there, Nike. So as I said, we've worked with Nike for the last 2 years. One of our former graduates or our alumni, Stephen, who's based in Oregon, in the States, and heads up the Jordan range. So he comes in and talks to students, again, gives students feedback on their work. So we're working with real industry experts and trying to sort of really enhance your overall experience with us. Again, some of the industry partners, as I said, Nike, local brand 40, 7 stores, which in Manchester, Harris Tweed, which is this unique licensed fabric that's made up on Isla Harris. It's all handmade, has a global reputation, is very treasured within the fashion industry because of its sustainable qualities. And then coming through to sort of big brands like Next and All Saints, international partners, Macy's, and so forth. So we have this wide range of different brands that we work with. Okay, and there's some of the careers that people have gone on to. It's one of those programs that's quite broad in terms of its scope. So we see students going to all sorts of things. We see students sort of picking up their skill base and going into buying. We have a program with Next where students have sort of done interviews and gone on to do placements with Next, and they're buying and merchandising things. There are people who come to us with fashion design backgrounds and use this as a top up, but then go back into fashion design with this marketing experience. And then coming through into your new areas, digital marketing, social media management, and so forth. So it allows students this extended body of knowledge. And then the dissertation process or your research process at the end really enhances your overall knowledge base in your particular area, trying to provide you with something unique to go back into industry so that you've got something that you can really use to market yourself. This is a really nice quote. This is from Dr. Cara Connell, who's the actual program leader for the undergraduate, and it's the same person I teach with on the Omnichannel, so she teaches on the master's program. Our focus is to help our students achieve their goals, which for most is to get a job they're passionate about and enjoy. We work tirelessly to keep the fashion programs up to date, industry relevant and enjoyable. And it's not just words, it actually is something the staff team are actually trying to do. We are all actively trying to understand what's happening in our industry. One of my research areas is digital technologies within fashion. And it's sort of this current knowledge that we try and bring, but we're also trying to make you enjoy your sort of student experience. So you leave thinking, well, actually, that was really good. You have a really good network of people to kind of stay in contact with. And in a sense, trying to enhance your passion around a subject matter so you become more employable. The more sort of engaged you are with your subject, generally the more knowledge, connections, and sort of experience you have in that area, which again comes back and really sort of allows for positive engagement when you're looking at employment. International tourism events. I do apologize. I'm kind of rattling through these at a rapid rate. This is one of our league programs. Okay. I'll just run through a couple of slides. We are the #1 university in Scotland and top 5 university in UK in terms of delivering international tourism and events program. And part of that is very much to do with our location. We hosted the Commonwealth Games in 2012. I actually did all the technical work on the medal bearers' outfits, so did have personal engagement with that. But we hold these big international events, which for a city of our size, we really punch above our weight. We held COP26. That was just a couple of years ago. We held the International Cycling event last year. We've got the Commonwealth Games coming back to us in a couple of years' time. Our fellow partners in Brisbane decided to withdraw, so we're picking up that. So we hold all of these big events. We've got the infrastructure for big events, and it's a perfect city for it. So again, when you're studying both tourism and event management, you get very hands-on experience, and a lot of our students actually worked on previous events, both COP26 and the Commonwealth Games, and were active participants in the sort of managing and planning and actually carrying out and supporting those events and their delivery. So you get this real-world sort of experience, which you can take away with you. As I said there, world-class events. There's a couple of the big venues at the back. Again, they're hosting everything. The SEC Hydro, which is the sort of more colourful one in the background, holds big music events. This whole area along the riverside hosted COP26. We've always got exhibition centres being run down there. And then all across Glasgow are these other sort of events and structures. We have a thriving music industry in Glasgow. All your touring bands will come through and play at different arenas. We have the big sports stadiums. So again, when it came to the Euros for football, we were holding events for that up in Scotland. And again, all within Glasgow. So you have these very strong connections to all the different sporting events, hosting sort of technology events, all sorts of things come through the city. So again, this real place for going out and gaining sort of experiential learning, in a sense, being at the sort of core of what's happening. The program itself is developed alongside industry knowledge, so we do get industry professionals coming in and actually feeding into our program, telling us what they need from graduates. So again, that gets put into our program. Tailoring to meet the tourism and events industry. So as I said before, in terms of location, we have this really unique location. We have this real core city which holds these big international events, but within 45 minutes, you're at Loch Lomond, you're on the verge of the Highlands. So this sort of completely different approach to sort of tourism. It's moved beyond the city and gone into sort of our rural tourism and our sort of landscape sort of based tourism. So we have lots of sustainable tourism very close to us. We have sort of lots of eco-friendly hotels running. We have this sort of amazing destination for people coming for outdoor activities and to get in touch with nature. We have really, really rugged coastlines. We have all of our lochs. A lot of you might be familiar with our sort of Loch Ness Monster. And all of these sort of feed into the sort of tourist here. We get a lot of people coming in for the tourist industry from the historical sort of aspect, looking at sort of anything from clans and sort of tartans and kilts and all sorts of things. So we have this very, very unique culture here, and that is pivotal to our tourist industry. So again, you get to experience that and be sort of in contact with that. So it feeds into what you're learning. And it's not just a big generic city. It's a small enough city that we're able to maintain those roots across both that sort of urban environment, but also the rural environment. And then again, looking outwards, developing skills from our global sort of citizens and industry leaders. So again, within the curriculum, we're not just looking at what's happening in Glasgow. We are looking wider afield. We're looking at what's happening in Europe. We're looking at what's happening on the world stages. And we try and bring that in. But Glasgow, in a sense, is a bit of a microcosm of the real world. It's quite diverse in terms of its population, its history, all of that. And so you can pick up little bits and pieces about what's happening across the world. We have a really interesting food scene, again, which has flourished in the last 15 years. Huge amounts of international sort of cuisine and stuff coming in. So we see all this diverse culture coming in and really affecting what we do. Our program structure is exactly the same across our 3 master's programs. You see the core green modules at the end. They're delivered to all students. And they're really around that notion of central values, ethics, and the common good, leadership, and preparing you for research. We look at destination management, And again, this draws connections with both marketing and fashion. We see a real emergence of sort of fashion as a destination. So fashion companies setting up hotels, fashion companies setting up exhibitions, pop-ups, all sorts of things. And that's how we sort of, as a department, work. We have this cross-fertilization across the different programs and how they bring together. In addition to that, obviously destinations from all your tourist destinations, events and so forth. So again, this real understanding around what a destination is, how you manage a destination, how you manage the promotion of that destination, how you look at technology and the implication of technology in relation to destinations. Essential revenue and cost management, understanding the finance behind tourism and events. So you're planning, and really looking at the sort of the line by line detail that goes into these events, how to make something successful, how to make a profit, how to sort of really consider your expenses, but also looking at cost effective ways of managing expenses, things like sustainability and that, how does that bear down on costs? Designing tour and event experience. So this is again that module where you really look at experiential learning, you pick up on an event and look at the planning cycle of that, and in lots of instances try and work with companies around how to put these events together so it's a sort of real life experience. Second trimester is a continuation of that, event planning, marketing and management. Again, looking at a little bit more in terms of the marketing and management of your overall event. So no event is successful without marketing, both prior to an event and post-event. So again, understanding that importance of both of those and really trying to sort of elaborate on those and sort of make them dynamic. So you get the best out of an event. For those that are at the event, they have one experience, but we also have a lot of people engaged with events from a distance, watching stuff online, following news feeds and post-event. So we need to now start consider this broader sort of array of people when we look at events. International marketing and planning, again, really focusing on that marketing aspect, links with our marketing program. So there's crossovers in those, but it's coming down to that notion of strategy. It's like we have the practical application of an event or a marketing campaign, but what's the strategy behind it? So there are lots of people behind the scenes planning to make sure, something that might be a 90-minute event actually will take months and months of planning and strategy to make it successful. So it's understanding all that goes in behind it. Sustainable development for tourism and event and hospitality. Again, all of our industries are moving towards more sustainable footprints. So we really need to be conscious of that. So we're trying to prepare you for that future of making you understand and actually hold sustainability sort of dear to your heart. A lot of people talk about sustainability, but they talk about it as a sort of foreign entity. Whereas we want students to actually believe that sustainability is a way forward, and how do you really consider that in your work? And then same thing again, research methods, and then your research project. Okay. And same as the previous one, you can do a second year with us, so professional practice. We have students working with, big hotel brands like the Radisson, Hilton, stuff like that, getting real life experience. We have students that have gone and done placement in some of our more luxurious sort of hotel sectors and tourism sectors. And we also have students that have gone and done professional practice with event planning. Things like the Celtic Connection, as I meant before, sort of actually working on planning that whole program of musical events and craft and cultural events that become part of Celtic Connection. So our partners, I mentioned quite a few of them: Hilton, Radisson, Celtic Connection. There's this real strong sense of music, the SEC, which runs the music awards. So again, it's quite unusual, but you do come into Scotland and a lot of people do have a sort of real passion for music, whether it be their contemporary pop artists that are coming from global destinations. But there's a real thriving local music scene. And then we have this sort of Celtic music scene up here as well. So it's slightly distinctive in that sense, as opposed to what you'll get anywhere else in the world. We've worked with Action for Children, so again, sort of our social responsibility sort of elements, European Championships. So we hold European Championships in both sport, in sports of football, cycling, athletics, There's always stuff up here happening on this sort of European level. And we have all the infrastructure to host it, hence why we're about to rehost the Commonwealth Games, because we actually have all the buildings here, so it's not going to cost us a fortune to set it up. So we have that infrastructure here, which is crucial, and it becomes really vital when we're teaching you to be able to refer to that and how it works. Our marketing program, I thought that's a really captive image. It's only a crazy dream until you actually do it. It's a Nike campaign, but it's so real. It's like if you actually put yourself out there and do something, all of a sudden it's no longer a dream. You're actually doing it. You're living that dream. And I think, again, that's how I try and teach, is to try and encourage to live out their dreams. When I teach design, I get students to really push their work and sort of have this vivid nature about what they want to do. Don't just do something for the sake of doing it. Do it for a reason. And I think a lot of the people I work with have that same sort of approach. It's like, we are creating, in a sense, or supporting you to realize your own dream. As a lecturer, my job is to try and facilitate your future. And I think that's core to our core values, in a sense, as a staff team, is trying to sort of think, where is it you guys want to go? We've all sort of been on big parts of our journey, but your journey is a beginning. So how do we start those journeys with you? How do we give you the sort of best sort of education, knowledge, and experience to start a journey? How do we open your eyes to what we're doing? I did a guest lecture on Friday with a group of students in Bangkok, exactly on that, on fashion futures. It's 90 minutes talking about the possibilities of where fashion may go. So they're looking at the career, they're looking at an industry and thinking, well, actually, I don't just have to be a designer. I don't have to do marketing. I could actually go and work in digital fashion. I could work in digital fashion marketing. I could work in the metaverse. So it's this notion of trying to present to you the opportunities that exist out there, as well as just teaching you this core curriculum. And marketing is very central to that. Marketing is continually changing. We've come out of influencer-led marketing, and we're looking for the next sort of evolution of marketing. Where do we go next? Who do we believe in? What do we use as our sort of brand material? Picture in the background, although faded out, is Iron Brew. Another sort of staple in Scotland is our national drink. It's strangely orange coloured, which makes it very unique. Has a great marketing campaign. So if you get the opportunity, go and look at Iron Brew marketing. Central to the campaign was it has steel girders in the drink. So big steel beams, which is very abstract, but it's grown as a brand, and it's grown for this unique series of campaign imagery. So we get students to work on things like this, things that are just a bit out of the box, a little bit different. How do we take something that's very Scottish and then export it to the rest of the world? How do we bring those things to the rest of the world into Scotland? So we're looking at all of those within marketing. Consumer behavior and ethics, I mentioned before, it's the same on the fashion module. Really understanding who your contemporary consumer is. How do you connect with them? How do you connect with them ethically? How do you inspire them to consume things ethically? Then we look at market insights and analytics, so some data analytics. So everything's backed up with data and fact, as opposed to just sort of raw instinct. The applied digital module, again, a module taught across several modules, several programs. And it's really about enhancing your use of particularly the Adobe suite, but other digital technologies to work with industry. We've got those green ones at the end, which are common. Okay, I've talked about those enough, but it's, again, very value-led. Integrated digital marketing communications. So again, looking at this similar to the sort of fashion one, the omnichannel. How do we integrate all of our digital marketing? How do we get all the platforms to work together? How do we get TikTok to align with what we've got coming out on Instagram, aligning with our digital billboards, then aligning with websites? How do we get them all integrated? How do they work to the best sort of way? So we're developing what are called IMCs, integrated marketing communications, but a very digital perspective. International marketing and planning. It's a bit like the events planning one, that notion of picking up international marketing campaigns and looking at real in-depth analysis in terms of the planning and strategy that goes into it. One of the more creative modules, creative brand management. So it's not just picking up a brand, as I said, and just trying to maintain it. It's thinking about the creativity. How do we revitalize this brand? And it's a bit like Iron Brew. It's been around a long time, but they keep coming up with new campaigns to make it appeal to a new audience. As I said before, Generation Alpha is just around the corner. So we need to be creative. How do we engage with these young people? So we're constantly in this state of change. So creativity is always at the core of that, and management of both that creative process and outcome is crucial. The professional practice module, same as I've said before, is the second year option if you choose to do it, where you go out and work with a marketing campaign. So you're gaining real life experience, but also have this sort of tutor with you that it can accompany you through that year of work, support you through that year of work, but also push you and develop you, make you really think about what it is that you're doing in industry. What are you learning from it? So you're not just going through the motions, you're kind of pulling back from these things and thinking, oh yeah, I did this week. If I was going to do it again, maybe I would change it. How would I change it? So you can have that conversation with a lecturer to sort of reinforce your thinking on these things. Okay, this is again, another quote from Joe. I share an office with Joe, so he is actually a real person. He's the program leader for the MSc International Marketing. His quote, so that is it very briefly. That's briefly what awaits you when you come to Glasgow. This is a challenging and rewarding program, and I'm sure you'll get a lot out of it. Glasgow is a friendly city to live in and work in, and when you need well-earned break from your study, from time to time, Scotland has a world-class tourist destination with plenty to do, see, and enjoy. I look forward to meeting you. All the staff have this same sort of thing. We look forward to meeting new people. We look forward to sort of engaging with people, sharing their experience. But as he says there, and I think this is crucial, we're a small enough city that within, as I said, 45 minutes to an hour, you can be in a completely different environment. You can go mountain biking out in rural terrain. You can go nature watching if that's something you're interested in. You can go sort of paddleboarding on any one of our numerous locks. You can go and visit castles and see, 2,000 years of history right on your doorstep. So on a weekend, if you want to get away from it, you can get away from it, but equally have a very vibrant sort of lifestyle. So on a weekend, you can go out clubbing, you can go out and eat, all the things you would hope to do in any city, but we have this really unique sort of surrounding, which makes it quite sort of different as a learning institution. I'm coming towards the end. There's a really strong campaign which is running Glasgow, and it's titled People Make Glasgow. You see these big pink banners everywhere you go in Glasgow, and this is an extension of it. And it's very true. It has such a diverse sort of mix of people, and it's the people that input into the city. So this was an extension of it. People Make Glasgow Creative. So we have real creative sort of centres up here. We're one of the central hubs for new innovative business and startup businesses, particularly in sort of more sort of creative areas, because it's affordable and it sort of thrives on its creative outcomes. So people are willing to engage with new creative startups. Whereas if you go into our big cities, it's really hard. You need a huge amount of money to do anything creatively. So People Make Glasgow Creative. People make Glasgow real. As I said, Glasgow feels like a very real city. When you see the people, they're not all fully made up all the time. They actually look like they're out doing things and living life and gaining experience. They're not all sitting behind a screen watching other people do it. A lot of people make Glasgow home. I've done that. I've come here. I've been here, 5 years now. So a lot of people come here as a tourist, as a student, and then actually end up living here. So we see this sort of population that are drawn to it because of its values. And then adding to that, you can make Glasgow. So if you want to come and study with us, you can be part of that experience, not only your own experience, but the collective experience of Glasgow. So that's it from me. Thank you for listening to me. I've talked for way too long. Just to point out and reiterate, Glasgow is one of the friendliest cities in the world. It was voted the friendliest city in the world in Time Out 22. So yeah, if you've got any questions, you can type them in the text box. Katie's also with me. She works and dare I'm going to say, and I'm going to get this wrong, but within sort of the recruiting and sort of enrollment and admissions department of the university. So she would be able to help with any of those questions. Sorry, Katie,
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly.
No problem, Stefan. Thank you. Firstly, thank you for the webinar. It was great to get an overview of all the courses and the partners you have in the department, all the industry experience. It's really interesting. Now, I know we've had some attendees join us who they haven't submitted any questions yet, so hopefully that means they've got enough information from your slides. But just to reiterate for everyone that the help doesn't end here today with the webinar. So if you need anything or if questions come to you after we've finished today, then please just send your questions into the student support team and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can, or we will contact the relevant people, Stefan or his colleagues in the department, to get you that information. So even if you think of something after today, we'll be available to help. But if there aren't any questions coming in, we'll probably just end the webinar here. Stefan, again, with a big thank you to you for your time and for running us through that today. And thank you to everyone who did join us. And we hope to speak to you soon and to see you at GCU in the future.
Guys, thank you very much. If you do have any questions, do type them in the sort of text box. Alternatively, do contact our recruitment team and they can forward any questions to either myself or any of my colleagues in the department.